Fair use.
I don't see how reparations is going to solve anything. The truth, there's no systemic racism that I've experienced here in America. What system is racist?
I think I don't think that currently there is systematic racism in a way that is going to be harmful to us.
Racism we've actually seen recently, systemic racism we've seen, is the application of systemic racism against white people.
We are becoming the new white supremacists in the church parking lot, and guess who stuck her up and robbed her at gunpoint? A black man.
These were real claims made in a Jubilee debate with Amanda Seales and conservative panelists. But here's the problem, none of them hold up to the facts. No shade to Amanda, but she's still just a comedian. So today, we're debunking 5 of the biggest myths you probably heard about Black America. Let's break this down. These talking points get thrown around to dismiss social dominance and avoid real solutions. But once you put them under a microscope, they fall apart.
Reparations are necessary. I think the most important thing that's necessary right now for the Black community would be the stopping of violence, especially Black on Black violence. I don't see how reparations is going to solve anything.
How come they don't
complain and feel entitled consistently to beg for reparations and beg for this when they are killing each other 90% of the time, which is the rate that Black people kill each other, according to the FBI.
Misconception number 1. Black on Black violence is 90%, so why worry about reparations? It's true, about 91% of Black deletions are committed by Black offenders. But here's what they leave out. 81% of YT deletions are committed by YT offenders. That's right, most violence is within the same race. People tend to commit crimes in their own community, regardless of race. It's not something unique to Black Americans. High crime rates in some Black neighborhoods are driven by poverty and disinvestment, not skin color. Historically, poor immigrant groups like Irish and Italians had very high crime rates when they were impoverished, but as they moved into the middle class, their violence plummeted. The same principle holds true today. Lack of wealth and opportunity fuels crime. Reparations or other investments that close the racial wealth gap can reduce violence by alleviating poverty and giving Black communities more opportunities to protect. In short, citing Black on Black crime dodges the real issue. It's poverty, not race, that breeds violence, just as it always has, and reparations aims to address that root cause.
What is the root cause of there being less fathers present?
Bad decision-making on the part of the fathers. We live in a patriarchal system. Like it or not, men have dominated the socioeconomic, economic, and political power of this country and the world since our existence. So our bad decision-making, especially when we focus on the Black community, is the root cause of
Where you have Black men talking like, the cuck white men.
This time, Lucas is correct. Misconception number 2. Black fatherlessness is caused by Black men. This is the deadbeat dad myth and is flat out false. Being unmarried is not the same thing as being an absent father. While a high percentage of Black children are born to unmarried mothers, nearly 60% of Black fathers live with their children, and many who live apart are still involved. In fact, a CDC study debunked the deadbeat Black dad stereotype. Black fathers, on average, are more involved in their kids' daily lives than white or Hispanic fathers in similar living situations. That means that Black dads feed, bathe, play with, and read to their children at equal or higher rates than dads of other races. Blaming Black fathers alone for fatherlessness also ignores systemic issues. Hyper-individualism and empowerment rhetoric has consequences. And let's not forget, parenting decisions involve both men and women. Most Black men don't even have kids. With modern contraception and family planning, it's overly simplistic to say that absent fathers are solely Black men's fault. The bottom line, most Black dads strive to be there for their kids, and the lazy Black dad trope is a disproven myth.
No one here is
Are you acting right now? Do you really believe
I'm telling
this?
the truth. There's no systemic racism that I've experienced here in America. What system is racist? I think the only racism we've actually seen recently, systemic racism that we've seen, is the application of systemic racism against white people.
And sadly, he wasn't the only one that believed that.
Talked about so much and so much attention focused on it. I don't think that currently there is systematic racism in a way that it's going to be harmful to us, like I said, to stop us.
Misconception number 3, systemic racism doesn't exist. Well, the data says otherwise. Systemic racism is very real and measurable. Consider health. A 2023 study in the Journal of American Medical Association found that from 1999 to 2020, Black Americans experienced 1.63 million excess deaths compared to what would have happened if Black mortality rates were the same as white rates. In plain terms, 1.63 million more black people died in those 2 decades than expected due to health disparities driven by unequal access to care, environmental factors, and other systemic issues. The paper went on to say that translates to 80 million years of life lost. Now, on to economics. The U.S. Census shows a glaring racial wealth gap. The median white household has 10 times the wealth of the median black household. Back in 2021, it was 24,000 versus 250,000. Wealth is mainly built through assets like homes and investments, which black Americans were denied or excluded from for generations. Think redlining, loan discrimination, and job discrimination. This huge disparity in capital compounds over time into systemic inequality. Then there's the justice system. Black Americans only make up about 13% of the population, yet we make up 61% of all wrongful convictions overturned, according to the National Registry of Exonerations. In other words, an innocent black person is more than 7 times more likely to be falsely convicted of a serious crime than an innocent white person. That's a stark indicator of bias in the criminal justice system. Please bear in mind that these are just a few examples. From healthcare to wealth to the criminal justice system, race-based disparities persist. That's why our systemic racism is still very real.
Conservatives may try to act like, oh, there's no racism in America. I absolutely believe that there's racism in America. I believe racist people exist. I just don't think that the systems as they stand today are inherently racist because I've seen too many black people overcome.
And she wasn't the only one.
And my grandpa came, if you saw the house that he grew up in, I'm not trying to be funny, it looked like a slave house. And the fact that he was able to go from that and get the highest rank enlisted in the United States Navy, I don't see how these systems are still in place.
Misconception number 4. If some black Americans succeed, barriers must be gone. This is a flawed conclusion. It confuses exceptions with the rule. Yes, of course there are successful black individuals, Oprah Winfrey, Barack Obama, countless others, just as someone occasionally wins the lottery. But a few high achievers doesn't erase the broader statistical reality for most black Americans. Odds and averages matter. The exception doesn't disprove the rule. If anything, it highlights it. Imagine saying that lotteries aren't hard to win because your neighbor hit the jackpot. That would be silly, right? Likewise, pointing to a few extraordinary cases ignores the fact that most people still face long odds. In the United States, social mobility has actually declined, and the racial wealth gap has widened in recent decades. That means it's become harder, not easier, for the average black American to climb the economic ladder. Historically, defenders of the status quo have always trotted out a few tokens or outliers to deny systemic oppression, but this doesn't hold up under scrutiny. The success of some black Americans in spite of obstacles doesn't mean that the obstacles aren't there. It means that those individuals were exceptional, and often some had access to resources or opportunities that many others didn't. In short, don't confuse the fact that exceptions exist with the false idea that being an exception is easy or that barriers are gone.
The only racism we've actually seen recently, systemic racism that we've seen, is the application of systemic racism against white people.
And others had a similar idea.
Egalitarianism. There should
I
be an
believe that
equality.
we are becoming the new white supremacists.
We are.
Misconception number 5. Black Americans are becoming black supremacists. Terms like black supremacy completely mischaracterize reality. Supremacy implies power, the ability of one group to dominate or oppress others. Black Americans, as a 13% minority in the United States, do not wield the institutional power to oppress white Americans. We've actually done the opposite of oppression and given other groups a clear lane to get here and have rights. As scholars of racism point out, racism equals prejudice plus power. Anyone can hold prejudiced views, but in America, it's white institutions that have historically had the power to enforce bias. There is no black-controlled equivalent of systemic power. No black-run oppressive regimes subjugating other races. Accusations of black supremacy usually stem from deep misunderstandings or distortions. Fighting for equal rights or saying that black lives actually matter is not about claiming superiority. It's about seeking equality after centuries of oppression. Unlike white supremacists, black activists aren't backed by a system favoring their dominion. So, the idea that black Americans are imposing supremacy is not just wrong, it flips the script to paint the victim of racial injustice as if they were the aggressors, which is a ludicrous inversion of reality.
Parents, are your parents black American?
Yeah, my mom is black. My father was black.
No, I'm asking, were they born in the United
No,
States?
because I wasn't born there.
Oh, so you guys are all from Angola?
Yes. But again,
I gotta go honor my parents back in Nigeria. I'm part Nigerian. I have to go honor
Not every black person from outside the US is an op, but it sure is frustrating when they are. It wasn't all bad, there was actually common ground here.
The reason why I say specifically in my claim that black people need to walk away from the Democratic Party is because every single election cycle, all they do is use us as their tokens. They use us as their kind of election tools. They use us as these campaign posters. They tell us to come to their rallies. They tell us to sing on their stages. They tell us to do all these things, and they forget about us 3 other years, and they remember us 4 years later. Every single cycle, it happens again and again.
That frustration is real. He's not alone.
I love myself and I love our people. I love everything about us. We have done so much for this country. We built this table that everyone is seated at.
Now remind me, which one is supposed to be the black radical again?
We deserve rights. We deserve all these things. However, what I don't like more than anything, is being used.
And that's why I bust these myths. Because they're not harmless. They distort history and they shift blame from systems to individuals. But when we look at the real data, the truth is clear. Poverty fuels crime, black dads do show up, systemic racism is measurable, exceptions don't erase barriers, and black supremacy is a fiction. Facts matter and they point us towards solutions like reparations, justice reform, and investment in communities. If you found this remotely helpful, hit the like button, share it, and subscribe for more deep dives. Because the only way to fight misinformation is with the truth. Please check out my other videos, and as always, follow the truth.